Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode of New Music Weekly, the show where I give you guys the top news headlines in the world of progressive rock, introduce you guys to some new singles, and give you updates on the channel and what's happening here on Nathan on Shuffle. So I've got a pretty full episode for you guys. I do this every 2 weeks now, so I let news items build up and then I have plenty to talk to you guys about, and it's worked out really well. The only problem is trying to make sure I'm covering everything, trying to not cover something that I already covered in my previous episodes. But I think I've got a great group of news items for you guys today, which I'm really excited to share with you. So first, I like to start these episodes with the new releases of the past couple weeks. For June 19th, the only really notable release that was on my radar was Prince of Failure's self-titled debut. This is alternative prog metal, prog rock, very modern sounding, very much has its toes in that gent kind of style world. Really, it's a duo project between Daniel Tompkins, who's now the frontman of Tesseract, as well as Paul Ortiz, I believe, is the other individual who's involved. So Paul Ortiz, yeah. So that's a really interesting project. One I'm going to be talking about a little bit more in my June roundup episode, which is coming next week. So for this week, for the 26th of June, Muse released a new album, The Wow Signal, which I've been seeing getting a lot of really positive reviews, kind of back to form after a few weaker albums, according to a lot of the fan base, back to like the classic Black Clouds and Silver Light. Sorry, that's Dream Theater. Back to the classic Black Holes and Revelations period of the band. So very exciting. Exploring Birdsong has a new album called Every House We Built. Fantastic, alternative modern prog metal, prog rock, with a pop twist, female vocals. This might be too in the pop side of the equation for a lot of people who are prog purists, but I really love it. I think it's one of the best standout releases in quite some time. So really excited about that. Also coming out this weekend, Lunatic Souls Transition 2, which is kind of a redone version of a bonus track that existed on Through Shaded Woods, plus a new track, Realm of the Weeping Willows. So it's kind of a bonus disc, kind of, some rarities, some new stuff, just kind of closing the chapter of this history with Lunatic Soul. So should be a really cool release to check out. I noticed that Is has a new refreshed version of their classic record, My River Flows. If you haven't heard of Is, they're a fantastic New York-based prog band, one of my favorites over the past 20-25 years. So love My River Flows. It's one of my favorite releases from them, maybe my favorite. So really happy to see they've done some remastering and bringing a kind of a fresh new version of the record, plus some demos that haven't been heard before are also tacked onto that. That's available on their Bandcamp as a digital-only release. So those are some exciting things that are out now that you can check out. I'm sure there's plenty of other records that have been released in the past couple weeks. Please chime in the comments section of any new releases that you guys have been excited about over the past couple weeks. All right, getting into the news proper here. The top item that I've seen recently is Steve Hackett and Steve Rothery have announced a collaborative album called The Roaring Waves. This is really exciting. It's coming out August 28th via Inside Out Music. It's up for pre-orders starting today, so that's exciting and on several formats, including a limited CD, Blu-ray, media book edition, including Dolby Atmos and high-resolution stereo mixes. Albums are also available as a standard CD and gatefold 180-gram LP cut at half speed at Abbey Road Studios by Miles Showell. All feature artwork and layouts by Simon Ward. They have a new track out, the first single from the record, The Black Sea. And this is an instrumental record. It's going to be 7 instrumental compositions that move fluidly between cinematic and intimate moments. And this first track is really beautiful. Steve Hackett and Steve Rothery are both notable guitarists in the prog space that I'm sure most prog fans would be very familiar with. Steve Hackett, formerly of Genesis, Steve Rothery of Marillion, two of the biggest prog bands. So really exciting to see them playing together, these two virtuosos. And I love how they're playing more intimately, more beautifully. It's not all about shredding and about how many notes per second. It's just beautiful, composed instrumental music. So that's going to be a real highlight of a release for this year that I'm looking forward to. The Pineapple Thief also announced a new single recently called Hold the Ashes. They've announced recently that they're part of the Inside Out lineup. They just signed with Inside Out. And it looks like they've finished up, wrapped up work on a new studio album that is yet unannounced. I'm assuming this single will be part of that new unannounced studio album, which is supposed to come out later this year, I believe. They're also doing some festival shows in Europe throughout June and July and early August. They're doing a headline tour across North America in November and December. So very active. The new single is fantastic. Gavin Harrison's drumming is just second to none. He's one of the greatest in the genre. And I really love Pineapple Thief, and they're growing on me. I know some of my former fellow colleagues, not former, but fellow colleagues, are more of a fan of their older material of Pineapple Thief and feel like the new stuff is getting a bit more repetitive and samey, but I'm kind of the opposite. I really like the newer material, especially with Gavin Harrison on drums. I feel like he's energized the band in a really exciting way, so I've loved their last several releases, so I'm sure I'll love this one, and we'll definitely be talking about it on the channel. I wanted to bring this. I wasn't even sure if this news came out maybe a week and a half or so ago. I was worried that I already covered it in my previous episode, but I don't think I did. Pattern Seeking Animals announced their 6th studio album, Grimalkin, and released a new single called Maybe All a Dream, which you can check out on my Prog singles list. That's a link in the description that you can go look at all the music videos of all the tracks that I'm talking about, including that Steve Hackett and Steve Rothery track that I just mentioned. But Grimalkin by Pattern Seeking Animals is going to be released August 21st on GEP Records. It's going to be available as a CD, LP, and digital download, as well as streaming, of course. Grimalkin originated in 16th century English as a variation of Graymalkin, Grey Cat, and was later popularized by Shakespeare's Macbeth as one of the names of the witch's familiars. So, cat companion with magical and supernatural associations. So kind of a darker supernatural kind of theme here, it seems. I really like Pattern Seeking Animals. They're kind of a newer iteration of several of the Spocksbeard members, with the songwriting prowess of John Baghold, who wrote for Spocksbeard in their post-Neal Morse era. And I love this lineup. I love this group. They're very consistent. Every album is really strong, and I'm sure this one will be no different. Just really strong, melodic prog rock. They bring in some various influences, but it's very melodic at its core, very accessible, and very easy to listen to. So you've got Ted Leonard on vocals, you've got Jimmy Keegan on drums, you've got Dave Maros on bass, a powerhouse of musicians there, including John Baghold himself. And it seems like this new album is going to be really exciting, so I want to make sure to put that in the list, even though that news is a little bit older. I want to talk about Neal Morse and his new acoustic singer-songwriter album, Darkness and Light. He's been doing a solo tour, I believe, in Europe, doing more acoustic, maybe some worship, testimony type stuff. And he's been debuting some of these new songs that he's been writing. And originally, he was only going to have this CD available on this little short tour, but it's available now for pre-order on Radiant Records, both a regular CD and a signed version, signed by Neal. So it's a limited run, so if you want to get one, you might want to check in on that sooner rather than later. The album's going to come out on July 17th, and it seems like this is an acoustic version of the album, and it's basically divided into the darkness and light side, so there's darker songs, lighter songs. I'm sure it's very much dealing with darker themes thematically and brighter and lighter themes between the two, and what the lyrics are about. And it seems like there's going to be an electric version later in the year as well, to kind of bring a more fuller band experience to these tracks. But it's more the singer-songwriter side of Neal, more accessible, more, acoustic, kind of folky, stuff that he does on occasion. So nothing big, bombastic, proggy like you'd expect from his bigger epic work. But if you're a big fan like I am of Neal Morse, any new release from him is exciting. So I'll be definitely checking that one out. I've already put my pre-order in. I wanted to briefly mention too, I saw news that there's a new charity, the David Lungden Foundation, that was launched on June 17th, which would have been David Lungden's 61st birthday. David Lungden is one of my favorite musicians. He was in the band Big Big Train, their front man. He also did a lot of the writing and a lot of other instrumentation. Just a fantastic multi-instrumentalist and genius writer. And unfortunately, he passed away. It was pretty tragic that he passed away when he did, and it really rocked the progressive rock community, those who are big fans of this band, as I am. So it's nice to see that there's a charity being developed here, and that it's going to be established by his fiancée, Sarah Ewing, and his manager and close friend, Nick Shilton, who serve as the trustees. The two core purposes of this foundation are to support young musicians from socioeconomically disadvantaged backgrounds through financial bursaries and mentoring by a panel of professional musicians and music industry experts. The second is to fund music therapy for those in need. So very worthy cause, and definitely something I wanted to quickly mention here. There's more information on that if you want to check it out at davidlungdenfoundation.com. More news here, more new album announcements I wanted to mention quickly. North Sea Echoes, featuring Ray Alder and Jim Matheos of Fate's Warning, announced a new record. This is going to be called How to Cast a Shadow, set for release on July 24th on Metal Blade Records. And there's a lead single out now that'll be in my Prog singles list in the description below. The song's called Enjoy the View. I wasn't a huge fan of their previous record, I'll be honest. A little bit more laid back and, more ambient and kind of, more subdued than their typical, like, prog metal work. But a lot of people enjoyed it, and this should be along the same lines. So wanted to point that out. It's available for pre-order if you're interested in North Sea Echoes, coming out July 24th. Post-rock group If These Trees Could Talk share a new single from their upcoming album. The album's going to be called The Hidden Hand, which is coming out July 10th through Metal Blade Records. The single is called Sea of Glass, which is in my Prog singles list. Very beautiful, cinematic, sweeping post-rock music, so really, really cool. Definitely worth checking out. That one's also available for pre-order. Green Carnation have shared a new single from their upcoming third part of their dark poem trilogy of records. The Messiah Complex is the name of this album. It's going to be released through Season of Mist on September 4th, and the single from it is called Unconditional Artificial Chemistry. They just released part 2 not too long ago, a couple months ago it seems. I believe it was in May or so. And so they're really quickly rolling out this third part of this trilogy. All 3 of these albums have been released in pretty quick succession. So really exciting if you're into Green Carnation and their kind of heavier prog, bordering on, metal aesthetic. I haven't been like super impressed with the first 2 parts, but I know a lot of people have been loving it and think it's a highlight of their career. So if you're big into Green Carnation, I think this could be a good record for you to go check out. Part 3 of this sprawling trilogy of records, available for pre-order. As for the channel itself, it's been a little bit quiet, I'll admit, over the past week or two. I did do a New Music Weekly 2 weeks ago, as you know. I reviewed Yes's latest album, Aurora, a couple weeks back, and that was a really fun review to get into. I also did my May roundup towards the beginning of this month, talking about the best albums that I enjoyed in the month of May. And I'm going to be doing my June roundup this upcoming week. I'm doing it a little earlier than I normally would because I'm making space for this big July series of my top 40 favorite albums, which I'm really excited about that should start not this upcoming week, but the week after. But I am thinking to do kind of a preamble type episode this week where I talk about some honorable mentions, kind of give you my philosophy of how I developed my top 40 list and how it might differ from what you might expect. So I want to give the preamble and the discussion about that in a quick video before I do the official top 40, so that I don't waste a lot of time talking about the logistics and all of that kind of stuff. I can just dive right into number 40 on my list. So I'm really excited about that series. I hope you guys are too. It's probably the best window into my musical world and my musical taste that you'll get on this channel. And I'm super excited. Just off the cuff, I'm going to pull out the records from my collection, hold them up, and just talk about why I love them and how they personally affected me. That's the plan at the moment. I'm also hoping in the near future to review Fido's new album, Automoto Animus, which I'm really digging and loving. He's one of my favorite artists of all time, and I want to give that album its own spotlight. So you can look forward to a lot of great material. This week's going to be a pretty busy week for me between those two episodes. I'm talking about the June album roundup, which I'm really excited about. I haven't talked about most of those albums on the channel yet, and there have been some major hits, some really incredible releases that I just felt like would work better in this album roundup format and would get less attention if I did their own review. So hopefully you guys are into that, and I'm excited for what's ahead. So thank you guys for joining me on this episode. Hopefully you appreciated it. Let me know any news items that I may have missed, any prog singles that you've enjoyed, any new albums. I'm always open-eared. Thank you guys, and enjoy the music.